Um, well, I'll assume ladies first, and I'll go first. How's that? Um, I'm Allie Gableman. I'm a CPA and I have my MBA, but I do not specialize in taxes. So even though I have a CPA, that's not like really what I talk about here on TikTok and social media in general. I am a money coach, so I work with clients one-on-one and provide like financial education type videos here on this platform around budgeting and saving and investing. But when I talk about investing, I'm like really specific to talk about long-term buy and hold investing with index funds. I do not go outside of that umbrella. In part because that's what I know, but also I believe that that is what most people should focus on because I think a lot of people are behind on their retirement investing, for example. So to just kind of focus on the long-term stuff, and then once they've graduated from that, they can move on to more like specialty type creators, I guess, if people are interested in that. And I have a lot of I meet with clients one-on-one, like I said, and I have a lot of clients that are looking to become first-time home buyers. So I've been recently creating more and more content around that. So not like as a real estate agent or anything, but more financially preparing to eventually shop to buy your first house.
Nice. Um, my name is Drew Lee, also a content creator around personal finance. I have a very similar mindset to Ali in terms of like buy and hold investing and index fund investing. But yeah, a lot of my again, similar to a lot of my channel is personal finance education. I just feel so passionate about the topic because I really believe when you use like the buy and hold long-term strategy, it doesn't need to be difficult. And oftentimes simpler is better. And a lot of people just don't understand that because they haven't had an opportunity to learn that simple is better and buy and hold in my opinion is, the way to do it. But yeah, I feel so passionate about this topic because I think it's a lot simpler than people realize, and I want people to have the same opportunity to learn this stuff and participate. But yeah, most of my content is around that theming, and I'm primarily on TikTok and a little bit on Instagram, trying to venture out into the other platforms. But yeah, very much a buy and hold long-term investor. I do have one rental property, and I do think real estate is a great can be a great investment as well. I think you just need to know what you're doing. It takes a little more effort, a little more learning.
Mhm.
But I think real estate can be a good investment as well if you know what you're doing. And I think I think that's it. Very much a Bogleheads. If anyone on the live has heard of the term, like Bogleheads style
Yeah.
investing, very much that mindset for me. And Jack Bogle is the guy that essentially started index funds. I think with like Vanguard, right, and maybe
He's the
the
founder of Vanguard.
founder of Vanguard. Okay, yeah, but very
And
much that like index
yeah.
fund style investing.
Very cool. The finance engineer is in the room.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
No, you're good.
Was that a board game cafe playing Pokemon with my friends?
Cool.
Nice.
I was observing, I should say. I wasn't playing. I was observing. Just got back. How's it going? What did I
It's
miss?
Good.
going good.
So I know all of you except Mally. I haven't formally met you, but nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Yeah, yeah.
Love your
Uh,
content. Love love your vibe. Love your message. So
oh,
it's good
thanks.
to.
Ditto. I know. I just recently discovered your account when Jonathan shared it, actually, as a part of like promoting this, and I was like, "Who's this guy?" Yeah. So I like your content. Very new to it, but I'm enjoying it.
Thank you.
Imran, I recently discovered your gaming channel where you also talk about money. I thought that's so cool to combine, I guess, like another one of your passions, right? And combine it with money. I love the idea and the concept.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I figured there's no one in the gaming niche, and I'm a huge gamer myself, so I was like, oh, let's try to mix the two, see what happens.
Yeah.
It's cool. I'm gonna have to check that out too. So Imran, we just finished doing our Drew and I did our little introductions of ourselves.
Ah, okay. Well, maybe I should let my cat introduce herself first. Do you want to say something? Do you want to talk about how much money you cost your dad? Yeah, my name's Imran. I am a software engineer by trade. Been working as a software engineer for the past 6, 7 years, and I've been making content for the past maybe 3 or 4 years. Started doing tech content at first, and then I realized quickly, well, I'm doing tech during my day job. When I get home, I don't want to do more tech. So then eventually switched to finance because I've always been the IT person in the family, but also the money person. So people would come to me with their computer problems, and then, hey, how does the Roth IRA work again? So kind of made sense. What else? I was always the person growing up asking people how much they made, and people would get mad at me, right? I was always that person. You can't ask that. I'm like, well, why? We all need money. Most of us want more money, but we can't talk about it. So,
And it's the question everyone's wondering anyway. You probably just were the only one
Exactly.
who said it out loud.
Exactly. Let's skip the small talk. Let's talk about it. Let's make this transparent. And yeah, so like Drew inspired me to do these live streams where we would break down our net worths, and then it's a great conversation starter. And yeah.
I know he gave me a nudge
Here
to
we
do
are.
that too. I still need to do it.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. At first, I'm like, it seems kind of cocky of me to post this, but then you get all the questions like, oh, okay. It sparks all these interest. Okay, what's the 401k? Why is this? Why is that? Why is this? Right?
Yeah.
It's a great,
Yeah.
it's a great format.
I think it's great for online, right? Where like I don't actually really know these people, but in my personal life, like it's still like, or I would, it's like this is like my alter ego, right? On social media, where it's people that I don't really know in real life, but I hate to. I wish I was more comfortable with it in real life, but it's still different in real life, I think, but.
I actually, when I did do a post on sharing my net worth, I actually had a real life friend talk to me about it like a week later. And she's like, oh, I recently increased my net worth, but it's not as much as yours. And, it made me feel bad because I was like, oh, and I think that was part of the hesitation, Drew, is having that real life interaction. I was like, well, I don't know, but but I should think of it as two separate things. Like that's personal life, like you said, alter ego. This is your online life.
But then they bleed into it, or they slowly bleed into each other, right? So now a lot of my friends, I guess, know about my account, and it is what it is, I guess. But
So they start asking you to pick up the tab more.
no, well, they know my frugalness as well, so they know they know that. Well, my fair share, my fair
Right,
share.
right.
But yeah. So, but it's not too bad. But and it's more awkward with I think family maybe, but it's
No, I think that's a very important distinction of the comparison aspect. And I know a bunch of people do it on both of y'all's lives. You're not high enough income, or your net income is too low. And it's kind of that defeats the whole purpose of our overall goal, which is to make you better off than you were yesterday.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then there's always a lot of comments of like, oh, that's not even that much, or
Or you're flexing, or blah blah blah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Or you guys might not get this because you're all male, but I also get, oh, that must be your husband's money, stuff
Oh
like
my
that.
gosh.
Like every time, it's like clockwork. Like
Oh my
every time.
gosh.
I see that
So-
being frustrating for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always gonna have those haters in the comments. Nothing you can do.
Totally.
But the funny thing I think about those comments is if people like truly understood I think like how this stuff works, they would know that, it's all relative, right? To, what your expenses are, what you're making, like,
Mhm.
where your cost of living is, where you live, right? So it's all relative, right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm spending, you know, $200,000 a year, 200 or $300,000 a year, my net worth it probably isn't that good for my age if
Yeah.
I'm spending that much, right? So, um, yeah,
And like you just said, age too. It's depending on age,
yeah,
like
that too,
somebody
yeah,
with, $100,000 in their early 20s, that's much more impressive than someone with $100,000 in their early 30s, But it's also like, where were you last year, So it's not, you have like, there's so many factors of like what may or may not be impressive. But at the end of the day, it's like, is each person getting better and better each year? Really, is what it comes down to.
Right.
sure.
And there are also factors of, I know a big one for me personally is I would be much better off, but I chose the more to make sure I was less debt and everything was paid off pretty much. So that everything I pay is just, your utilities and my house payment. That's pretty much
Mhm.
it. So,
Yeah.
It's called personal finance for a reason, right? People always ask, well, what's the best, like, how much money should I have by this age? Or like, how much should I save? It's like, we can make these general, give these general guidelines, but really it comes down to you. What are your goals? Are you
Yeah.
cool with debt? Some people are cool with debt, right? They'll take on a bunch of debt, build a real estate portfolio. That's the game, right? Other
Hmm.
people, they can't handle debt at all, right? Like there's this stress that comes with debt, so it
Hmm.
really depends on you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. But whenever people do like keep asking me for a framework based on spending, I do kind of start talking about the 50/30/20 budgeting framework, which I saw Imran you shared in one of your lives recently. I don't know, Drew or Jonathan, if you guys ever use that, but it's for the people listening, it's essentially 50% of your take home pay goes towards your needs. So, like, stuff you need to live, like rent, minimum debt payments is in there too. Food, utilities, that type of stuff. And then 30% on your wants. So, that's going to depend person to person, could be shopping, dining out, you know, fun stuff. And then 20% on your financial goals. So your savings, investing, um, and early debt payoff. So any like a snowball debt payment type thing would be in that 20%. So that's what, yeah, I think it's a good framework. But I've had clients that live in a high cost of living area and or have huge debt payments. I have one client that is like a triple whammy: high cost of living area, she got a ton of debt, and she has childcare. She cannot stick to that framework. She cannot.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's just the starting point. The 20% is to your financial goals is like the ultimate goal to keep in mind. But I have also seen it like backfire and people freak out because they're at like 70% needs or something. But it's still good to realize what a benchmark is and if you're far from it or not.
Yeah, you got to have
Yeah,
some kind of reference point, right?
Totally.
Start somewhere, and then
I
Mm-hmm.
agree. It's a
tailor
great,
it to your
great
needs.
starting point.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, I think the interesting aspect is a whole lot of it too is a lot more psychological. So getting them to shift into a habit forming ideology that this will help me in my present and future life. Yes, you may not be able to do a percentage higher than you would like, but it will improve your aspects better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting comments
Also,
here. I don't know what the format you wanted this to be, Jonathan. Did you want to go through some comments here and there?
Yeah, if you get any good questions or comments, feel free. We'll just rotate and answer questions. So I feel like we did a good introduction. We can do some questions, and then based on the questions, I feel like we'll discover more.
Right on.
Okay.
So here's one from Mago Suarez. Hi, I genuine need help slash advice. My girlfriend and I make around $250,000 in Houston, no debt. Do you have? First of all, it's awesome. Let's see. Is there a continuation of this here? You're saving a lot of money. We have an empty lot. Trying to build a house to rent. Don't know how to start. Plan is to build a rental.
I feel like
Okay.
there's so many follow-up questions I have to
Yep.
be
Yep.
able to
Lots of
know.
follow-ups.
So I don't know if
What?
you're getting to if they added any more contacts or not.
That was it.
The first thing I'm thinking is like, it sounds like they're in a pretty good situation, right? 250K a year and no debt. I mean, I think, if you can figure out
Yeah. Well
a
done.
sweet spot for spending, right? I mean, you can, I think, create a nice sized gap there if you want to, right? And save and invest a lot of money into real estate or whatever they want.
One of my first follow-up questions was if they, oh no, they said they were saving a lot. So I was thinking if they have a solid emergency savings, but they already said they're saving a lot, right? In the context,
Yeah. Looks like it.
in the comment.
They have an
Okay,
empty
okay,
lot,
so
trying to build a house to rent. Don't know how to start.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Are they trying to build like multiple units on one lot, or because that could be cool if they're also building like a house hacking situation for themselves where they could live in some unit on the lot and then rent out another one. That's always, I feel like house hacking is like an awesome way to get ahead. I wish I had the foresight before I bought my house to do that. You did, right, Drew? Did you house hack?
Bought a duplex like 3 years ago. We lived in it for about a year, and then we bought like a single family home that we live in now. But yeah, I wish I did it when I was 24 years old or 25 years old compared to like 29 or 30 when I did it. I think I'd have even, I would have a lot more, I think. But yeah, and it's a great way to start into real estate and to save a lot of money on your housing expense, which is most people's, number one expense. So yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
And
I
then
have a couple.
investing, obviously, I don't know if they have a solid, if they feel like they're on track for retirement investing or to retire at the age they want. But that would be another follow-up question I would have.
Looks like they have 50K saved so far. Um, what else? We just started saving this year. Yeah, so come up with a simple budget first off before you go on like do anything else. People want to just jump straight into investing, buying real estate, but like
Mhm.
make sure you have a nice little egg nest, right? At least 3 months worth of living expenses. Keep that in a high yield savings. Get it out of Chase, get it out of Wells Fargo, Bank of
Yeah.
America, right? They're not paying you anything for that. So let your money work, let them pay you a decent interest rate on that money.
Hmm.
And then after that, you just come up with some goals, right?
Yeah,
What are you trying to accomplish? Like, why do you want to? What's the goal? Why even invest, right? What's the point, right? Real estate, Roth
totally.
area, all this stuff. These are tools. So what are you trying to accomplish with these tools?
Yeah, yeah. Like don't save just to save. Have like you said, like a goal in mind, what are you working towards? Yeah, I agree.
I once heard
Uh,
someone say, like, if you ever talk to a professional or get advice or whatever, right? The first question that person should ask you is, "What are your goals?" And if they don't, you're it's probably not a good start if they're not trying to ask what your goals are first. So that I remember resonated with me a lot.
Yeah, I got a good scenario here. Unless Imran, was that one you think finished?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think we're good to move on.
Someone said, user CW5C, blah, blah, blah. I'm making 100K, own a condo, save about $2,000 to $25,000 a month in a high yield savings account. Should I stop and start investing? And how much? Want to be financially free. So they did provide the goal, probably because they probably typed that right as we were talking about it. Yeah, you guys, one of you want to go first? I can recap it if you want.
Yeah, sorry. Can you
Yeah, I know there's a lot. There's a lot. Okay. All right. So I'm making 100K, own a condo, save $2,000 to $2,500 a month in a high yield savings account. So check, they got it in the right place. Should I stop doing that and start investing?
I think there's a couple boxes you got to check off. So I have this. My one of my favorite resources is through Reddit. It's like it's like a flow chart, right? That essentially outlines pretty well like the order, and in general the order it says, which I feel pretty strongly about, is the right. Like number one, start with like a 1 month emergency fund just to at least get that under your belt. Number two, make sure you get your 401k match, right? That's free money. The only time you'll ever get 100% or a 50% return on your money. Number three, make sure like medium and high interest debt is paid off. And then number four, like increase your emergency fund to 3 months. And then number five, then probably start with your Roth IRA if you're making under that limit. But anyways, you know, I think you could flip flop a few of those, whatever. But that's I think a pretty good high level thing to, you know, some steps to check off right before you, to see if you're ready to invest. And so I think that at a high level, probably most of that applies probably to see if that person, right, you know, has all their high and medium interest debt paid off. And if they have their emergency fund in place, then I would say, yeah, go invest.
Yeah, I have a pretty similar process. They added, they said I have $125,000 in the bank. The only debt is their condo. So it sounds like hopefully that's low interest debt, because unfortunately some mortgages were crazy high there for a little bit at the beginning of the year. I draw the line at high versus not high, I guess, since you threw in medium. Now there's like another, there's high, medium, low, but at 7%. So I would say 7% and higher to me is high interest debt. Do you guys have the same like threshold?
Yeah, around 7.
Okay. So this person
so sorry, go ahead.
No.
Well, I always feel like yeah, like that 6, 7, that's like that middle, that no man's land, right? You could like, you know, if somebody's more okay with that, then you could maybe they might be okay with 7. If somebody more steers towards maybe not wanting that, then they could probably go down to, you know, 6 or 5 or something, right? Is there? But yeah, I yeah, right around there, yeah.
Yeah, so they just clarified their mortgage is 5%. So not maybe the low end of the medium category you're talking about. But yeah, I have a similar process as the flow chart you mentioned, the steps in the flow chart you mentioned. So yeah, it sounds like they might have enough for an emergency savings since they're a homeowner. I ask people a series of questions to see like how many months they might want to save up for. Things that would make you closer to the 6 month range and not be okay with just the 3 month minimum would be like if you're a parent, if you're a pet owner, if you have to travel for a family emergency, and a homeowner is one of them. So if you answer yes to those questions, or if you have a medical condition, because unfortunately medical debt is such an issue here. If you answer yes to any of those, then that kind of steers you away from 3 and a little bit closer to 6. So long story short, I'm not sure if $25,000 is enough for fully funded emergency savings or not. Sounds like it's probably close if it's not. But yeah, then I would just focus on investing if you feel comfortable with that 5% debt, because that is below what I would consider high interest debt anyway. So then I would kind of refocus my attention on investing for retirement first, just to make sure that that's on track, and then more short-term stuff if that's on track.
So yeah, I would also add some key elements of like it sounds like they have a good savings, but because they have that extra property that they want to build a house or a rental on, you
That's
need
a different
to think,
person.
oh,
Sorry.
different person. Gotcha.
Yeah, sorry. It is hard to keep track because we're reading each other's comments, but
Yeah,
that was Imran's commenter.
gotcha. But yeah, back to Imran's, with them, I would save a little differently with how you're paying your construction crew. Because most construction, you need to pay half up front to make sure they do the job, and then pay the second half to make sure they complete it. So if you can time it out, ideally, your emergency and your completion time are two different times, and you can short time that, whether it be in CDs or maybe I bonds, because building a whole unit it takes a lot of time.
It's good to know. I'm not a real estate person. I'm a total noob when it comes to real estate. So any real
I'm
estate
getting
you got, throw it my way. Drew,
I'm getting
is Drew in frozen for you all? I just see Drew's. Okay, just me. Okay.
okay. I'm getting a couple comments in my live. Do not build a rental. I think the people are thinking that if you want to do a rental, don't build it. Just find a rental, I guess. But I have one rental property, but I'm by no means an expert on rental properties. But I'm getting those comments in my chat. I have an interesting comment. Someone asked what makes you guys experts on this, or what makes us experts on this? I don't know how.
I like these
That was a
questions.
fair question. Hard to answer, but
favorites.
totally fair.
I guess I don't mind going first since I brought it up, but I don't think you need to be an expert on this stuff, right? It's I'm not a CFP, right? I don't have any designations or anything like that, but I'm also not trying to give out specific advice. But I don't think you need to be on the style of investing that I like to do, which is buy and hold long-term investing, like Boglehead style. You don't need to be an expert, and in fact, most people that are not experts and are taking the simple path are doing better than the quote-unquote experts. So I think to answer your question, I don't think I am an expert, but I don't think you need to be an expert. I think a lot of people just need to learn the basics. And if you're an advanced investor, right? My channel is probably not for you, right? But I don't think you necessarily need to be an expert.
It also helps to, if you've gone and done it, right? I think that's
true too.
Will set us apart from others, right? We've been there, we've done that, right?
Mhm.
That helps. I think we're more relatable than, if some multi-billionaire came on here. Like, I don't know, when I see live streams of these like really, successful people, they're multi-billionaires, I'm like, I don't feel like I can relate to you, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
You
that's
seem
a
like a
good
regular
point.
person to me, right?
Yeah.
So it's nice to see, real people who aren't doing like crazy extraordinary things, but
Yeah.
are successful, right? It's relatable.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the relatability is huge, and we are self-taught in a sense. I mean, I had a few graduate level finance classes in the MBA program, but I don't really feel like I actually learned how to invest there. But one of my mentors at my old corporate job said that you want to learn from people who are 2 to 3 steps ahead of you. And so I think that goes to the relatability that you were talking about. It would be odd, I think, to learn from someone who is like a billionaire. Like you said, there's such a huge gap between us and them, right?
Yep.
So instead, I think our accounts are similar in the sense that we are 2 to 3 steps ahead of a lot of people. And that's probably the majority of our audience is people who are looking to kind of get 2 to 3 steps ahead from where they are now.
Great point.
One answer in the comments was, quote unquote, look at my portfolio relative to my age and look at yours, LOL. Which is kind of what Imran said, that we've done it, right? Or, we've gone through that, and, I think we have a lot to share. So.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I think that's the main thing too, is finding out what your niche is. I know we predominantly preach personal finance, but whether you want to achieve that through more stocks, through more real estate, through more work-related aspects. It's those ventures that get more nitty-gritty. And those ways hopefully will be more helpful. So I may be working property management and owning a couple of rentals will be able to help you with that. But maybe having the CFP, or CFA.
You probably see it.
Either, yeah, you'll be able to be more on the investment side. Whereas I don't have a Series 7.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm not 100% sure on all I know CFP is the one that if people really want like their specialized advice and if they want someone to kind of do it for them approach, that's when usually I would steer them more towards a CFP, a certified financial planner. Because some people they either can afford it or they don't want to do it themselves. That's hopefully not many of our followers because we're here to teach the more do-it-yourself approach. But a CFP could, at least with investing, actually do it for you, literally.
Right. Well, I also find we're fortunate and we know a bunch, but it's hard whenever you get into taxation. Because tax code it's so complicated. And I'll be able to help a little bit, but I do not by any means. If you get into the LLC territory, I am no help in that category.
Can't know everything, right?
Yeah.
That's why people specialize.
Mm.
CFPs, CPAs, people specialize in business.
Yeah.
I am a CPA, and that is a way higher bill rate, to be honest. So it's different, but yeah, it's and even within the CPA field, and I'm sure, I mean, that's my specialty, but within other fields as well, it's like there are specialties within that. Like some people focus on tax, and then I'm a CPA, but I always focus on financial planning and financial reporting. So that's why I can't really help as much with the tax question, but yeah. And then there's so many different specialties, but I don't know if people really need that, or they only need it at certain points in their life, maybe not always. Like someone might need extensive tax planning and tax strategy when they inherit money from their parents who passed away, but they might not ever need it at a different point in their life, So this is more the everyday finance kind of content.
Yeah, most people don't need anything special, right? Like most people just have a job, right?
Mm.
When you get complicated, that's when you will want to bring in a professional. But if you just have, like I got people all the time asking before taxes were due, oh, how do I do my taxes? How do I do my taxes? Should I hire a professional? And for most people, if you have a simple W-2, tax software is so damn good these days.
Mm-hmm.
You just click next, read what it says, okay, fill it in.
Yeah.
And same for investing. If you just have a simple job, you just want to save for retirement, I'd argue you probably don't need a CFP. I mean, a lot of awesome tools. You just need to learn about them. Target date retirement funds. Just set and forget it. You're good, right? Most people would benefit from that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
When I was a controller at a small manufacturing business, I was also HR. And so whenever there were new employees or employees who were just starting to sign up for the retirement plan, we had to help them fill out the paperwork and get them started. Luckily, we were with Vanguard. I actually switched everybody over to Vanguard. We were with this really expensive financial advisor before then, but they have to choose their own investments, right? At least the way it was set up in the small business. And that was always really scary for people. And so I would always provide them with the literature because I couldn't advise them, right? Like I'm HR, I can't do that. But I would always provide them with the literature of like, there's this thing called a target date index fund. Typically you take your birth year plus 65 and then find the closest one. And here's what they're invested in, And so I would just provide them with all this like literature of like, here's a thing that exists. And I would basically like be forced to leave it at that with that role. But that was when long story short, that is when I fell in love with target date index funds. Because that is excellent for the everyday investor who is intimidated by how do I create my own portfolio? What is diversification? What should I think about? What should I do? What should I pick? I think that is one of the greatest inventions for people who are just overwhelmed by all of that, because it can be overwhelming and confusing.
Absolutely. Tons of
Yeah, I agree. They're great. They're great.
I think the
why I
only
always say-
downside is the speed in which they allocate you to bonds. And I think that's probably their main. That gets into the risk management category, but that is, in my view, their main downfall.
So you think they're too conservative? Is that what you mean? They go into
Yeah.
bonds too quickly?
Because they go, it's what, 35 or 27? They go very heavy into bonds pretty quick.
I actually just did a video on this. I wish I could exactly remember the chart that was like on the green screen behind me. But the Vanguard one, anyway, they phase into 10% bonds by the time you're 30. Is that what you mean by heavy?
Yeah. I'd just say it, it's that allocation of stocks to bonds, and it just becomes very heavy into bonds really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know the exact numbers, but I mean that's why I don't use target date funds, is because I still think I'm young enough to be essentially 100% in stocks and be aggressive. So that's why I don't use them. But so I kind of agree with you, but I think for the person that, again, wants to set and forget it, right? That, they're going to get a lot more benefit by at least being invested rather than, sitting on the sidelines and trying to figure out what to do, right? Just put the money in a target date fund at least to start, right? And you never have to worry about it for 40 years if you want to.
Yeah.
So maybe like a different, depends who the customer is, right? Or who's using it. But.
Yeah. And in that when I was HR, that scenario I was explaining to you guys, if someone was really confident and or excited about picking their own investments, I didn't really mention much. It's just like, oh, here's where you sign up, But the people more than half of the people in the office were very, very stressed out by having to pick their own investments. So that's where I had like a stack of like target date fund literature from Vanguard, just like ready and printed. It would just like provide to them to select, because it's for the people who want to set it, forget it, and are overwhelmed and stressed out by investing. If you're interested in it and excited in it, then you probably wouldn't lean towards that. But also, if you were invested in a target date index fund and you wanted some bonds, but not as much as the allocation they do, you could always supplement with like additional, stocks to kind of offset that too. So it doesn't have to be like a yes or no strict kind of answer.
I like that idea a lot, because then you could do something like 75% of your portfolio into the target date fund, and then like an additional 25% in, S&P 500 or whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
To get kind of more stock exposure. That's smart. I've never thought of that. I like that.
I'm glad you like that, because that is basically my portfolio, my husband's
Okay,
portfolio.
cool.
Is that we have, pretty much exactly what you said. It's like 75% ish target date funds. We have the Vanguard one. I mean, it's only the expense ratio is 0.8. I'm sorry, 0.08. So it's so low, and then we supplement it with the total US stock market one. That's what we do.
I love that. I've never thought about that, but I love that. It's like allows the target date fund to almost be customizable then.
Yeah.
I guess, right? Yeah. I love that, man.
I'm always trying to find
change
the easiest, most simple way to do anything. The least number of tickers is like what I'm going for, but still having a complete portfolio. What were you going to say, Imran?
I think in Vanguard, you're able to adjust that allocation within your target date fund. At least the last time I
Ooh,
checked,
I didn't know
a
that.
couple years ago.
Okay,
Um,
I'm going to check that
yeah,
out. I didn't know that.
I don't know how it works with like if that's just overriding their allocation. Like,
Hmm.
do they take over at some point? I'm not sure, but yeah, last I checked, you can choose your allocation. But
Interesting.
either way,
Yep.
So
Yeah.
then on that note, what do you guys think of robo-advisors? Because I once heard somebody say that a robo-advisor is a better marketed target date fund.
I like that. I feel like better marketed and more expensive target date
Yeah,
fund.
true. Yeah, better market, and maybe a little bit more customizable. But then if you use your strategy, Ali, you can kind of customize your target date fund a little more. But yeah, I heard someone say that one time. I was like, yeah, I mean, kind of, kind of right, maybe. But
Mhm.
Well,
there
it
was I
also
think with robo
depends on
advisors.
the yeah, it
Go ahead,
also
Jonathan.
depends on the firm. And I know, for example, like Edward Jones, they have a template that they give all their employees that it's kind of okay, these are levels of risk, but you have to mainly stay within these ETFs or individual stocks or certain bonds that we've vetted, and you just essentially sell them. And it's those kind of things that make it, in my view, a deterrent for newer people because you're still trusting so much on your advisor, and if you need any uh, flex in future, like what you're trying to do, they're not as able to work with you.
Do you mean the robo advisor in that scenario, like or
Yeah. So, and I mean, also robo advisors, they're good in the aspect that they have an algorithm and it competes and it does what works, but it is very attuned to its algorithm and it doesn't find I mean, no one can find black swan events such as the GameStop or AMC stuff, but it's just the personal touch of change and willing to change that is upon more of a personal approach that you don't get with robo advisors.
The thing with robo advisors that I always think about is since it is algorithmic, what happens when there's a bug, right? Actually, we just saw that recently with Betterment. Betterment was fined by the I think SEC for some bug in their tax loss harvesting algorithm.
no?
oh,
I think people missed out on up to $4 million in potential tax benefits, but that's
wow.
software, right?
Yeah, that sounds like a software engineer thinking of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
That's
I'm just
interesting,
like,
though. That's super interesting to think about, though, huh?
yeah.
Yeah, there's probably. I mean, obviously, whenever humans are involved, I'm sure there's even more errors though, and
Sure.
things that are missed than
Yeah.
a robo advisor. But yeah, I know I see people talk about robo advisors, and I'm not against them or anything. I just the way you phrased it, Drew, that they were better marketed, and then I would just add, and usually more expensive compared to like a target date index fund.
Yeah, I think like Betterment and Wealthfront, I think they charge like 0.25. And then I believe, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, and then Ali, you were saying that the Vanguard target date fund is like 0.08, or just for comparison, right? So
Yeah.
Betterment Wealthfront 0.25, Vanguard target date fund is 0.08, and then I know like the S&P 500 fund for like Vanguard and Fidelity are like 0.03 and like 0.015. But
Yeah.
anyways, just for perspective.
Yeah, I mean that's more than
Yeah,
double
good point. Yeah, you're
the
right.
robo
Wealthfront is
advisors.
0.25.
0.25 for Wealthfront.
0.25.
It's a little
Pricey.
steep. Mhm.
But you know what? If as long as you're investing,
Yeah, exactly.
pick whatever. It's like just
That's all.
start. Please start.
Yeah, fully agree. The thing I always say is like the thing that's going to have the bigger impact is how much you're investing, right? Compared to whether you're in an S&P 500 fund, a target date fund, even if you're using the robo-advisor, the thing that's going to have the bigger impact is, if you can make an extra $500 a month and invest that, or save an extra $500 a month and invest that.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I think people get caught up too much and they delay starting because they're in this like analysis paralysis phase. So yeah, basically whatever it takes to get them out of that and started is good. Good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say too, we're fortunate enough that just where we are right now, you don't have as many walls for starting investing, such as there are fractional shares, and you don't have any, like, barely any fees. I know whenever I first started with stocks, it was a $5 minimum on transactions. That was the buy and the sell. So you had to math out, okay, I need to buy this much, so I gain this much.
Mhm.
And it covers the amount either gained or lost plus
Yeah.
the fees.
That seems like it could quickly become a losing game.
Mhm.
But
See, question here: what is a healthy mix of a portfolio these days? That's going to depend on where you're at. How old are you? Again, what are your goals?
yeah. I find a lot of people seem to kind of forget about international stocks though. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, exactly that. Like the golden three usually are what US stock index, US bond index, and international, right? Those are the three golden
Yep.
three.
And then if you look at, if you look at a target date fund, that's all it is. Those three
Right.
things,
Yep.
those three pillars.
Boom, one step, you're done. You can go live your life.
Yeah. Or not even one step, even if you didn't, what I like to tell people too is that you can use that as a benchmark. Like even if you don't want to buy a target date index fund for whatever reason, you can look at them as what is a traditional portfolio for someone your age. You can find that out by looking at a target date index fund. I'm in my early 30s, and the target date index fund for me is, for someone my age, is like 90% stocks, about 10% bonds, and then about 30% of that is international usually. So it's kind of split out that way. But yeah, I just like looking at target date index funds, even if you choose to not invest in them, to just look at them as a benchmark of what, to kind of answer that person's question, what does a complete portfolio look like? It, like you said, Imran, it totally depends on their age, what their goals are. But if they want to see like a quote unquote traditional answer, they could look at a target date index fund for their age.
Right. And also, too, if you want to be with that total package, but also offer a little more risk than a target date, you could just, not financial advice, but you could look at the Vanguard Total World ETF, which is just everything, foreign, US, just essentially the whole market. And you don't have the bond allocation that target date funds have, so it's a little more aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
There's
I think.
Go ahead, Drew.
I was gonna say, yeah, that sounds like a good option. Yeah.
There's a CFP, I think it's a CFP in my chat, Nicholas. He was saying international has always underperformed compared to U.S. stocks.
I disagree with that. And there's a very good chart that I always like to reference. Like the last 10 years, the U.S. has outperformed international by a mile. But if like from 2000, I'm estimating from like 2000 to 2010, international outperformed U.S. But the last 10 years, yes, the U.S. has outperformed. But if you go back 40 years, there's periods where international has outperformed U.S.
Always got to zoom out, right?
Yeah.
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 Pinch in.
Yeah.
And
I
I
want
just
to get my
feel like
laptop too. Sorry, go ahead.
even if it's funny, Drew, I thought you were gonna go and like get the chart physically in your house or something.
I have it in my bedroom. Yeah, I look at it every night.
He has a pillowcase that's just that.
Yeah, I sleep in my index funds. Yeah.
I'm gonna say
What else
something else,
here?
but I
Any
totally
other interesting questions on?
So is everyone here pursuing like FIRE or like financial independence, retire early, or that type of mindset, I guess? That's a question for me.
Yeah,
Not from the
I still think it's good to talk about. I don't have like early retirement goals at the moment. It might change, but I'm kind of like not in my hustle phase of my life right now. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I am personally like trying to minimize my expenses as much as possible so that I can work only 3 days a week and be like available and more present with my kids. And my husband only works 4 days a week. He got a nice job that's only 4 days a week. So that's kind of long story short, I'm not looking to retire early, but I'm still looking to like build wealth and everything on this journey. So it's not like we're tapping into our savings or anything like that. We're just cutting back on spending and cutting back on investing a little bit compared to what we used to do, just for this phase of our life. Maybe when our kids are older, I'll call you Drew, and I'll change my answer and say I'm going to retire early. But for now, that's kind of why I feel like I'm one of the only finance creators who's not looking to like retire early. But I don't know. That's my answer for now anyway. I'm looking more to just like maximize my more limited income. And I say limited compared to like before I was a mom and made a lot more money. But that was intentional.
Yeah, same. I want to echo that. I used to think retirement was, just kind of lay back and you don't do anything. And I thought about it more, and I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. That sounds boring. I've always been very project driven. I want to work on something. So up until maybe 2 years ago, I was like, I want to retire early and just do that because everyone's talking about it, right? But now it's all about, all right, I want to spend time on the things I want to spend time on, try to work less overall, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my goal.
Yeah, I echo that as well. I don't think I'll ever, or if I do retire, quote unquote, early, I don't think I would just sit around and do nothing. But I always say I just want to be able to do like whatever I want to do for work, regardless of, maybe salary or pay. And I want to be able to do it whenever I want to, right? Mm-hmm. So more so the financial independence part and being able to do whatever I want to, but not necessarily, retiring early and doing nothing. So.
Yeah, no, I personally always preach the 4% rule because I don't want to ever completely stop working, but I want to get to a point that my cash flow is able to provide enough that I don't need a 9 to 5, but I still want to be doing something, whether that is just working at Starbucks or make up your hypothetical job, but it's still being somewhere that I'm getting an income, but I'm not relying on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about it at the beginning. I think that's called work optional.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that would be my goal too. I would love that, but I guess it's not a high priority at the moment because I'm looking to just I don't want to be full-time stay at home. I really like happy with the balance I have of like working a couple days a week, being, 100% focused on my kids a couple days a week. So I want to maintain that balance for a little bit longer and then maybe get back into more of a hustle later.
Yeah.
No, and those are the big opportunity cost questions that are tough.
hmm hmm Totally. Yeah, Drew, you're a parent too, right? You have one kid.
Yeah. Yeah, one kid. My wife is due with our second in like 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So so yeah, it's gonna get crazy around here soon. But yeah, right now I kind of have the same mindset. It's like a period of it's a phase, right? Like if my wife is a stay-at-home mom, and in eventually, once the kids get to school age, she's gonna do something for work, and but yeah. So it's kind of like a phase, I think right now. So um,
I got one question if we want to answer this real quick.
Yeah.
For 401k, is it better to set a target date or invest on other things since it's limited on options?
First thing I would look at are what are the fees. I was coaching someone last year, and their 401k, they were contributing, they were getting matching contributions, looked awesome. And then I dug in a little deeper, and the expense ratio was so damn high. We did the math, and it would have been, 6 figures worth of fees after 30, 40 years. So definitely check that. Whatever you choose to invest in your 401k, look at the fees. They add up.
hmm But at a minimum, invest enough to get the match, right? Like that would be regardless of fees. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah, get that free money.
Yeah, no, in my opinion, I would go to say never go over the match because there are more downsides than upsides if you go over.
So I like never, because I'm thinking of the employment plan that I helped set up at my old company.
Hmm.
And it's with Vanguard, and there were no additional fees compared to what like the everyday investor could get with Vanguard. So I feel like, and my sister coincidentally has the same setup at her job. So the only reason I wanted to just push back a little bit is because I do think there are some employer-sponsored plans, whether it be simple IRA or 401k or whatever. I think there are some good ones where the fees are the same. So why not just like simplify people's lives and have one account if the fees are low? But to Imran's point, that's not always the case. And to your point too, Jonathan, that sometimes fees are really high. I just hope you don't mind the pushback a little bit because I think that there are some employer-sponsored plans that are pretty good, that are completely comparable to just like an IRA you could open up.
Right. No, and I mean it's definitely a fair point, and I also probably approached it a little bit more of me personally, I don't like anything all in one basket. So I would not go everything in the match with your company. As if something happens, not that I would, because it's through a fund, but still the the outlook is it's you don't know. So I'd rather do that what you can get a return with your company that will benefit you and stick to that.
So you just mean like have another outside investment account
Right.
outside your employer.
Like a taxable brokerage account.
Yeah. So I mean, for instance, me personally, I have a just a TD Ameritrade account that is nothing special, but there are less hoops I have to go through if I need to ever pull money or deal with certain things. I just go to that account and get things if they come up. Versus if you have to go through your work or if you have to do other aspects, or if you're trying to go with, okay, is this a fee relation account of will it benefit me? It's just the pool is more limited with work because they have a set selection. Not saying it's bad. You made good points on that, and I'll agree. It's just I'm more for the more opportunity and diversification normally works out in your favor.
In your own account that you can self-manage. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I was just sharing that the way that some employer-sponsored plans are set up is that they can be self-managed and they can have all the same options as a regular brokerage account. I'm sorry, a regular IRA type account with the same brokerage firm. And I just happen to know that is true because of the one I set up at my old employer is identical to the IRA I have individually.
Oh.
But I think that might not be super common. And I think that most 401ks have limited options and fees.
Yeah. So I've worked for like 4 companies since I graduated college, and from my experience with 4 different companies, yeah, a lot of the fund choices do kind of suck, but there's always been at least an S&P 500 index fund with a low expense ratio at the bare minimum for me to put my 401k money in, which, you know, is for me, that's great. But I agree, a lot of the funds were not great, but there was always at least, you know, an S&P 500, like a basic S&P 500 fund that was, you know, had a low expense ratio.
So someone asked me last week, I want to retire early. How much should I invest in my 401k? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm okay with being heavy into 401k because there's this guy, the mad scientist. I don't know if you've ever heard or read his stuff, but he had this article where, you know, he'll do a Roth conversion ladder to get money out of his 401k prior to 59 and a half, where you don't have to pay, and you don't have to pay any penalties on it. There's like a 5-year vesting period, right? So if you have like a traditional IRA, again, I've never done it. I'm not claiming to be an expert on it, but you can go Google more about it. But essentially you can like say, hey, I want to take like $20,000 out of my traditional IRA. And then there's like a 5-year vesting period, and then you'll have to pay taxes on it, but no penalties. And then in 5 years, you can essentially use that $20,000 after you pay taxes on it. But again, no penalties for taking out early. So, anyways, but I've talked to other FIRE people that are living and living FIRE and doing it right now, and that's been a lot of the people that are index fund heavy and not real estate heavy. That's been a lot of their strategy to do that Roth conversion ladder. So I'm okay with being heavy 401k as someone pursuing FIRE, but again, I totally get it. If somebody wants to have complete flexibility and do the taxable brokerage account, right, go for it. Right? Again, the bigger factor is going to be whether you're investing $2,000 a month or $300 a month, right? Whether it's 401k, taxable brokerage, but I'm okay being 401k heavy. So.
Yeah, I just think that the question was someone wants to retire early, but did you know how soon? Like, are we talking 5 years or 10 years from now or
It was about 10 years,
10 years?
so
Yeah.
well before 59 and a half.
Yeah. It's hard to answer because it depends on if they have enough in their retirement type accounts first. Like if they have enough there to wait until to tap into till they're 59 and a half or until they start doing the Roth conversion ladders, then it would be like, okay, then channel everything to the taxable brokerage so that you can start using it earlier. But if they don't have, so that's why it's hard to know without the exact numbers. But when people aren't looking to retire early necessarily, but just want to go heavy on investing, I usually say to consider the tax advantage accounts first, the retirement type accounts first, because you get the tax advantage that you don't with a taxable brokerage.
That's how I feel
and
too.
then there's things like Roth conversion ladders if you want to strategize to get the money out early. And then also if you're investing in a Roth, you can still get your original contributions out earlier. It's just the growth that you have to wait on.
Yeah,
So
that's a very good point too. That's why I do think it's kind of nice to have money in some, or I think Jonathan was mentioning this earlier about, I guess, being diversified and having money in different areas, and then you have different options to pull from, right? Like, then you can, does it make sense to do the Roth conversion ladder based on maybe whatever your income is going to be that year? Or maybe then you can wait till you're in a lower income year, right? Or you can pull from your Roth IRA, right? Or even if you have some in a taxable brokerage, right? Then that just gives you another option to decide what makes sense in that time. But so I think it will be nice to have some of those different options, because I really have no idea what my life is going to look like for me when I'm right in 15 or 20 years, right?
yeah.
But it'll be nice to have different options so we can have things to choose between.
I also try to structure my investing so that my key accounts that I want when I'm older compound more, and things that I am more likely to get shorter term, like the individual brokerage account, I can pull from, but I never touch my Roth IRA or backdoor IRA. It's those accounts just compound growth forever, and I won't touch it until I reach that, was it 69 and a half or 65 and a half? What the date is?
59 and a half.
59 and a half.
59 and a half.
Yeah,
So,
it's
sorry,
only a good
if I
one year.
understand right, it was you're saying like, or somebody told me that in their Roth IRA they'll put more aggressive things because they might do more individual stocks in their Roth IRA. That's more aggressive because if something goes to the moon, right, and they get some insane return, then they don't have to pay taxes on that large amount of money if they do hit something and it goes to the moon. Is that kind of similar mindset that you were having, Jonathan? I
I
don't know if
wouldn't say I would go that. I'm more in actually my Roth IRA is more conservative than my individual account. So my individual account, even though I will pay more taxes, I have it set up. Now, this is where it gets me personally, and don't take my advice for you, but I do more of how many shares or how many different things I buy in different amounts so that the risk is allocated so that if I get a crazy gain or a loss, it's minimized. But in the Roth, I'd have that steady growth that I don't have to worry about. I know I'm going to get it when I'm older. It's all tax free, and that I can rely on. This is more of, okay, I have it. If things, adjust in life, I can pull from it. yes, I may get taxed, but I am also prepared for that.
I got an interesting comment from in the comment section here. If you guys are interesting, it's more not really a question. It's more of a, I mean, it's a question. Okay, so he said, would the panel be willing to share their net worths? So
I got the same
it just
question.
made me giggle because I know that's kind of like your thing, Drew. So I'm guessing you are. But um, I am. Are you guys willing to say yes to this person? Okay.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first? I'm trying to remember. It
Who's in the
changes
top
daily.
left? I know it does.
I'm trying to
Who's
see
in
if
the
I can.
top left? Is it? Oh, Corey.
Oh, how did you do that, Drew?
There's my background that's distorted.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
I
say it's
just
actually
modify.
really, really hard to read when there's four of us here on the call.
I
It's like
know.
impossible, just so you know.
Yeah.
But you went first. Tell us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's around like 530,000, and I'm 32 years old. But yeah, it fluctuates day to day because I think of that roughly 350,000 is invested in index funds. So I always like to put in perspective when you have like six figures invested, or in my case, 350,000 invested, whenever the market goes up by 2%, my net worth goes up by $7,000, or whenever it goes down by 2%, it goes down by $7,000. So that's why it fluctuates. But yeah, it's roughly like 350 invested in index funds, and that I think I have maybe 100, low hundreds of like home equity, and then I put my cars in my net worth. But I always get a lot of people don't like that I do that, but I think it's okay too. But again, people can, you can or you can't. But anyways, that's a rough breakdown of what it
I
is.
put my car too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
an asset that I could sell if I wanted to.
That's how I feel.
Value.
You can sell it and get the money in cash if you
Yeah.
needed to within a week or two or whatever. So I
Yeah.
agree.
Nice. Well, I pulled up mine, so I like not to share on the screen. I'll go on my laptop here. Mine is 623,000 right now. I share finances with my husband. So it is, but we've been married since we were 23. So we had nothing but student loans together when we first got married. So we have a combined net worth because we started with negative together. So now we've built this together. But I do share that because we are two people. And so, yeah, 623,000 it is today. A lot of mine is my home equity, like a lot. I'm trying to see how much. About 400,000 of that is my home equity. I live in Southern California, and our like property values are just booming here. And we bought in 2016, so we've had a lot of appreciation.
Nice.
And I have a little bit of cars too, like you said, about $38,000 estimating in cars with no loans associated with them, and then about $180,000 in investments, and then 12-ish thousand in cash for our emergency savings, which is a little lean. So I also like as a money coach, what I would identify as my weaknesses is my emergency savings is a little bit lean right now. We're still recovering from when our AC broke and we had to replace it. So thank God we used our emergency savings instead of credit cards, right? But that's why we're still rebuilding that.
Right on. Well done. Let's see. Mine's around 650. It's a mix of brokerage, 401k, Roth, crypto, equity, and car.
Thanks.
The house is falling in value. Definitely. The market's definitely cooling off.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to check the value, but yeah, it's definitely going down.
Where
Far at the peak last year.
Where do you live again, Imran, if you don't mind sharing?
I'm around 20 miles north of Seattle.
Okay. Okay. I was gonna say, I guess since home values are are more there, I imagine you're seeing more of a drop because I feel like there's been a little drop in Cincinnati, but I feel like it hasn't been too bad yet. But I imagine when homes are more, there's more to drop in the higher cost of living areas. I'm sure, but I was just curious.
Yeah, we've had a drop here too in Southern California compared to like last year.
Yeah. Okay.
Someone
Yeah,
just said
so
they own a house in California, thinking of selling it and moving to Arizona. A lot of people in California feel the same. Arizona, Nevada, Texas.
no, Texas is good. Texas and Florida, even Tennessee is pretty good, real estate wise. Louisiana's tough. Um, we're getting a hit a lot on the other aspects with real estate. So you get hit a lot on the insurance side and different factors like that. Because Louisiana insurance with all the hurricanes and stuff is just unbelievable. So
How much a month? I don't know, for like an average home, how much a month would that insurance be for, like things like that, like hurricanes and stuff like that? Do you know roughly?
So I don't know the individual, but for our collective portfolio, which is about 12 homes, insurance is around like 30,000. Just because it's stupid. But yeah, it's a whole different animal.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's a lot of risk.
Yeah. All right. I need to go help with dinner time because it's like 6:30 here
Yep.
in Southern California. But thank you so much for this chat, Jonathan. Organizing
Yeah,
it.
no, thank you for
Put this
coming.
together. Someone commented and saying, "You guys seem like disciplined investors."
Hands off is the best approach. I mean, what I mean is don't sell. Don't panic sell. Don't get excited about something and buy. Just have like a level-headed approach to it. And if you are stressed with the daily ups and downs of the stock market, then I don't know don't look at it every day. Consider yourself a
Uninstall the app.
long-term investor.
Block the website.
What?
I said uninstall the apps, block the websites, right? Don't look
Yes.
at it.
Yeah.
Oh, before I leave, there was a follow-up question. What's Jonathan's net worth? Never heard it.
Oh, so my net worth, this goes back, I'll be a comment section for a minute, but yeah, y'all all have me beat. I'm about 300,000, but my debt side is very low. It's pretty much just my home, and that's about it. I made sure I paid off the student loan, the personal, all that stuff. So very fortunate in that department, but that contributed a lot to my net worth and where it's at right now.
And when you say we have you beat, remember it's not a comparison
Right.
game,
Yep.
you know. And also, I was really intentional about sharing that my husband and I are two people with a combined net worth. So it's like if you split us in half, I'm right there with you, Jonathan.
And it's subjective, right? It's like it may seem like a lot to someone, might seem like a little bit to someone. It's purely subjective, right? Doesn't paint your net worth doesn't paint your whole picture.
For sure.
Now that I'm leaving, I'm getting some more questions. Does any of you have your MBAs? I do, actually.
Nope.
I do, but I am also here to say it doesn't help me.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It helped me get a high income job. It did not help my personal finance. But I do think it helped me get a higher income salary when I was in the corporate world. But it doesn't really help me in the world of personal finance. So I have it, but that's not really something you should care about. So
Yeah. Makes sense.
I've worked with people with insane credentials, certifications, degrees, Harvard, MIT. Some are brilliant, some are not. Some have no idea what they're doing, right? The older I get, the more I realize credentials, in my opinion, are quite meaningless. It's all about how knowledgeable are you, right?
Imran,
Who to work with.
they probably don't have over 250,000 followers on TikTok though, right? Probably
Yeah.
what they're missing.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, well, I'm going to go for real this time. Have a good night. It was awesome
right.
talking to all of
Alright,
you.
Allie.
Bye.
You too.
Have a good night.
See you, Allie. Okay. Well, if you want to I can chat until, let's see, 7 p.m. my time, another 20, 30 minutes. What do you all
Yeah, I think
up to?
we're kind of naturally winding down. If y'all want to do any final sayings or pieces of knowledge that you've learned, go for it.
Yeah, any questions from any side? If you have any questions, let us know. We can talk about it.
But yeah, I know, Drew, didn't you want to talk about dividends?
Yeah, we could do that a little. Honestly, yeah. See, I don't do anything like specific with dividends, to be honest. I know, Jonathan, you're I think more into like dividend focused stocks and like dividend focused funds. But see, I just do like, like S&P 500 and like US total market. But I've never been one to do anything like dividend focused. I always just go for, I guess, the broader based stuff. But yeah, I mean, I would love to, I guess, learn more from you on your strategy with it and maybe why and stuff like that.
Yeah, I take more of the same approach as treat dividend investing kind of the same as a match with your company. It's basically free money. The only issue comes is if you try to drip these dividends, so reinvest into things that you got it from. The math shows, yes, you will compound more and get a better outcome, a good amount. Like if you drip VTI, for example, they give a dividend and you get substantially more out of that dividend. But if you do more individual company or sector ETF, it's harder to drip because there's rotation. So what I find is if you take the dividend and you put it into things like the VTI that are slow and steady, you'll get a better output.